I'm one person that believe in collaboration, for instance, and a lot of people will think, but Masana, she's your competition. I'm like, no, she's not. There's only one Masana.
On this episode of Women Who Hustle, we sit down with the bubbly queen, Masana Sangweni. She talks business, following in her family's footsteps, and gracing the runways of the Mr. South Africa stage. Kubona, end.
Yeah, Masana, so tell me about who is Masana? Who is this bubbly queen? She calls herself Bubbly Queen on Facebook. And then she calls herself the Passionista on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I want to know exactly which one of these two is she, or is she a mesh of the two? Just tell us a bit about you.
Okay, well, Masana is an event passionista, right. Meaning that I am passionate about events. You know, I'm passionate about making events, attending events, creating events, you know, just being part of beautiful events. That's what my passion lies. And that's why I started the events company, Sanandi Events. Mm-hmm. The Bubbly Queen on the other side, that's my social media name, because most people, when they meet me or when they talk about me, you know, when they introduce me to somebody else, they'll be like, Masana, don't you know Masana, the bubbly one? Mm-hmm. You know? So that's why I ended up just becoming the Bubbly Queen, because people refer to me as the bubbly one, you know? Yeah. So yeah, and I love some bubbly. I love bubbly.
So okay, just tell us a bit about your background.
Okay, I am from Giyani with love. I grew up in Giyani. My parents, I lived with my parents, obviously, in Giyani since forever, and went to primary school in Giyani. Mm-hmm. Half of my primary school, actually. And then in the mid-90s, just after Mandela came out of prison, you know, when we found our freedom, I went to Joburg and went to school in Joburg. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I was basically in Joburg until I graduated in West University. I did a BCom finance, graduated moons ago, and then soon after that, I worked for corporates, worked for a few financial companies, RMB, Discovery, FNB, as an internal auditor. And then I just knew that corporate wasn't for me, but I also didn't know what is for me, you know what I mean? I wasn't sure what it is that I wanted to do, but I knew for sure that corporate wasn't what I wanted for myself forever, ever. Mm-hmm. So fortunately, I was fortunate enough to have parents that have been in business. So I decided to use my internal auditing experience to work for my parents or work with my parents, you know, to try and just step into this entrepreneurial world, you know how it is with when your parents have businesses, you know, at the end of the day, they wish, or they are planning, you are their succession plan, whether you like it or not, whether it's part of your passions and anything, you know what I mean? You just, if you are in business, you have to be in the family business. So I was like, you know what, let me start there. I don't know what business it is that I want, but I know I've got an itch to start my own business or to have my own business. So I started with my parents' company, it's a construction company, worked there. And the plan was basically to work there for 5 years. You know, I had just gotten married. I was having kids, so I liked that flexibility. Working with your parents, you know, you've got all the flexibility in the world. You've got 2 small babies. You can come into work whenever you want. Don't come into work, whatever. It was very comfortable, you know. So I enjoyed working with my parents. I learned a lot from working with my parents.
I know you had now gotten to the 10 years, and you're like, I want to start my own thing. But why the own thing? Why was the own thing rather events?
Events was the thing that it excites me, you know. You should be in my space, right? One day just come visit me. I make a
Oh,
big
really?
deal out of I make a big deal out of everything, about anything. And that's
Right.
and my friends and family would always say, like, somebody would say I'm having a lunch, and then it would just become an event because there
Right.
will be decorations, there will be entertainment. I always go all out when we're celebrating any event. So it just gets me really excited.
So now the
Yeah.
event business, right, is
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
pretty a cluttered space, because anyone claims to be an event person. To be honest, there's so
Totally.
many events
There's so many.
planners out there. How are you navigating that?
That was one of the reasons why it took me forever to actually start Sanandi events, was the fact that even then in 2016, there was a lot of events companies.
Right.
Everybody was an events planner, everybody was a party planner,
Mm.
whatever you want to call it, wedding planner, everybody was planning events one way or another. And that's what discouraged me. I'm like, there's already a lot of us in the space. How am I going to make my impact? Who am I? There's a lot of people that have already been in business for 5 to 10 years. They're established, they know what they're doing, and I'm just going to come here from nowhere and I'm going to claim the space. How? It discouraged me, you know what I mean? But then I realized that, the pie is big enough for everybody. There is abundance in this. Abundance is basically what is the mindset that I had. I'm like, you know what? Yes, I'm one, but I'm one in a million. There's a lot of people looking for an events planner, and I don't think one person or 20 can suit everybody. So hence, there's a lot of us, because there's a lot of people are different, and people need different people, you know what I mean, to satisfy their needs and to deliver to them. So it's saturated, yes, in the sense that there's a lot of events planners, but I don't think there's too many events planners that you can't make money. I have to really decide what it is that I want to do, what space do I want to fit in. I'm one person that believe in collaboration, for instance, and a lot of people will think, but Masana, she's your competition. I'm like, no, she's not. There's only one Masana. Farai event planner is my competition, yes, because we do the same thing, but then there's something that Farai has that I don't have, that I can work with Farai and make whatever it is that I'm producing better. Yes, we're both event planners, but we can work together, and create something beautiful together. There's no need to compete per se. We are competition by definition, but we can collaborate. That's how I operate.
So obviously you evolved from just owning that one business, and now you own multiple businesses. Just take me through that. I'm pretty sure you've encountered some challenges and even some wins as well, through this process and during your expansion. Just take us through that.
Well, yes, I started with Sanandi events, and it has evolved. It has a lot of aspects within it, because of, I guess it's because of experience. You know what I mean? You experience and you learn more, and you get more curious, and you find more interest. Once you start, once I believe, at least, as an entrepreneur, when you start, you start with one thing, but you end up with a totally different thing, because what you put down on paper is not always what comes out in reality, right? So I started with Sanandi events. I wanted to be an events planner for everybody. You realize that that's not the case. I have to really decide what it is that I want to do, what space do I want to fit in. It took me some time to realize where I want to be. And then now that's what I'm working on. I'm working on basically just creating that, making sure people understand that that's what I'm about. I'm about intimate, small events. The sooner you realize that your family and friends are not necessarily your target market, the better you will be. They're not necessarily your ideal client, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. So just stop having expectations that your friends will use you for your services, or and if they don't, it's because they're hating on you. It's not. They're just not your target market. I learned that very quickly in the game. And also, like I'm saying, that I also learned that as much as, I started thinking there's going to be projects after project after projects. I'm going to be event planning every other weekend. It's going to be fabulous. And it wasn't. Then I realized that I needed something else besides being an events planner to keep the money coming. You know what I mean? To keep even my passion alive. Forget just the money, just to keep your passion alive, because that's very important. You have to keep your passion alive even when there is no money coming through. So that's how Maua Blossoms came along. Maua Blossoms is all about delivering happiness and spreading love, through our gifts and our flowers. So what happened is I realized that as much as I might not be hosting or planning an event, I could be delivering flowers or a gift to celebrate some sort of an event with somebody. Right. Maua Blossoms is basically the business card that leads you to Sanandi events. I might also use the time to find out who I am. Who does that? This girl does that, next time somebody asks you who does that, you must just say, this girl does that. I just had discovered what my niche is just before COVID hit, and when I'm saying just that, it was literally, so, I remember 2019 was when I could see the numbers on my profit and loss going up. I could see that my revenue is actually starting to pick up. It's no longer one and then it was actually gradually going up because I had found my niche. I knew where I was going, and 2020 looked like it was going to be a beautiful year. What I mean? I felt like
and then COVID had a slam dunk. It was like 1 point to COVID and 0 to human
talent. Dude, I ended off 2019 on such a good year. I had just done the Standard Bank Polo at Staying City. That was like, for me, the greatest thing, for me. I was not even doing the event. I was just doing the florals at that event. You know what I mean? And that was like my greatest achievement in a long time. Before that, I was promoting big events, and people were trusting me with their events, promoting their events, your polos at Inanda, your DSTV Delicious, all of that. People were now trusting me as your as an events promoter, So I was like I'm saying, and then 2020 happened. This COVID thing came to us, and it was like, what? I was like, what? Okay, now people can't attend events. All these lifestyle events that were my thing are not going to happen because people must stay indoors, So that was a bummer. But at the same time, it also made me realize that, okay, we're still on track in a sense that I'm about intimate events, when Ramaphosa talks about 50 people or less, for me, it's not a big shock. The only thing is, it's just sad that I have not reached that market as yet, and everybody's struggling right now. For one, not everybody's struggling, but most people are really struggling in a sense that whether it's an event for 100 or 50 people, event is a luxury at the end of the day.
One of the things I'm excited to ask you about is, okay, so here's Masana, she's done all this creative pivoting stuff, and, COVID has come, COVID has hit, and you decide to enter Mrs. SA. Like, where was that head? Where was your head space? Like, what brought that on,
Yeah, the timing. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
So this girl does that. This girl does that. I'm one person.
Does that. I should coin that. We should coin that phrase. This girl does that.
This girl does that. So I won't say it's boredom. It wasn't because I was bored, but I
Right.
think it was inspired by boredom.
Right.
I mean, everybody is 2020, everybody is on their cell phone. You're on social media, you are scrolling left, right, and center. That's where you find inspiration, that's where you find entertainment, that's where you connect, So I was literally just on the phone, and then I realized that, wow, there's this competition. I don't know, how algorithm works. I don't know if it gets into your head and actually figures out what you're thinking or what you're needing or the things you're searching but this thing just kept popping up, Mrs. South Africa. I'm like, excuse my French. And then I'm like, okay. So what happened is there's a friend of mine from Guyana, I grew up with long ago. I noticed that she entered Mrs. South Africa last year. So obviously I follow her. And so I'm watching her her growth, and I'm watching what she's about. And so because I guess I'm following her a lot, commenting on her posts and just, checking her out, I guess Instagram decided to give me more of what I'm looking for.
Algorithm. Yes.
Yeah. So it kept coming and I'm like, okay, fine, click on link. So I clicked on link and read about what it is. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I could do this.
Right.
It's not like I've got anything better to
She
do.
does that. Who does that?
Nobody wants an event right now. Nobody's celebrating. Okay, Masana, here's something for you to do and keep busy. You know what I mean? So I decided, I filled in the form. And as I'm filling in the form, and then I must say that I realized it was actually filling in the form that made me realize that, okay, girl, who are you? What do you do? Who is Masana? You know what I mean? Like, they'll ask you a simple question like, tell us about yourself. Like,
right.
it tell us 5 interesting things about you or something like that, or 1 interesting thing about you. But I was like, oh my gosh, what is interesting about me? You know what I mean? It took me a while to actually fill in the form, but that's when I realized that I need to find myself. I don't, the first thing you would say, hi, I'm a mom of 2, I'm a wife, I'm a husband, I'm a daughter, but besides all of that, who are you? I thought to myself that, hey, we've got all this lockdown. I've got no events that I'm planning or whatever, I might as well use the time to find out who I am. And at the same time, I turned 40 this year. So, they say life begins at 40. So I was like, okay, let's do something uncomfortable. Let's get out of my comfort zone and do this. I had never thought of myself as a beauty anything. You know what I mean? So entering a beauty contest, as it might seem, is really totally out of my comfort zone, even though Mrs. South Africa it's not a beauty contest per se, but it's classified as such. Turning 40 was another reason. It was like, you know what, let's live this life, let's do the things that we wouldn't do. Who does this? This girl does that. As much as I know I've grown, I've matured, I'm no longer 22 and all of that, but at the same time, you look in the mirror and you kind of like, I don't recognize the person that you have become or are becoming, or you've changed from, like when you're having a one-on-one with yourself and you're like, what happened? Or as much as you might not have changed, it's like, you've got so many fears, let them go. You are 40, man, get over it, do things, it's like, it's really an internal, it's an introspection kind of thing that I'm doing, is just to conquer my fears, try out new things, step out of my comfort zone, just be the best version of myself from here onwards, so and it's just a path, Mrs. South Africa is just one way to do it. There's other ways to do it.
Oh, Masana, I am so excited for you.
Thank you, Farai.
I had such an awesome time chatting to you.
Is it time out?
I couldn't wait to ask you the Mrs. SA because, like I said, I've had so many different experiences with different Mrs. SA participants. So that's why I wanted to like tell me. Do you have like one thing that you would like to maybe? What's the most memorable thing out of this interview that you would like to maybe?
Actually, the most memorable thing from this specific interview is the hashtag that we just created. Who does that? This girl does that. You know, like, you know, next time somebody asks you who does that, you must just say, this girl does that.